I be missing out on my kids' life and I work a lot. So I be having to provide for them and I really don't be having time to spend with them. And it hurts me a lot.
Nakia Hamilton is a single mother of three here in Colombia. She works 12 hours plus to provide for her children, even if that means doing it all by herself at this Burger King on Broad River Road.
One of my employees just quit on me and they ain't had nobody else to come in. So I had to work by myself, had to close by myself, had to do the dishes, do prep, do the floor, do front counter, drive through. Though I ain't no shutting down drive through and let people come in because it's too much trying to run and take orders and got to run back. So
Y'all need to get her some help up in here because she busted her behind. She's doing everything she needs to do to make sure everybody is okay up in here.
In this TikTok video, you can see Hamilton working by herself, and thousands of people on social media had questions.
and then last night I closed again by myself last night. I finally got help today. And she been here since 11 o'clock. She about to close with us at 11. So we just ain't got no employees. Nobody want to work no more.
Still, even after what happened here that day, Hamilton says she's doing it all for her children and thanks her manager for giving her the job.
I wouldn't have no job because I do have a record. And it's hard to find a job with a record. And by grace of God, she gave me a job. So that's the only reason why I stayed for her.
What we saw was this story about this young lady who is working in the Burger King. She's a manager. It's right outside of Columbia. It's a little suburb right outside of Columbia, nice little area. And she's working by herself. Now she's in a managerial position. So what kind of normally happens if you're a manager or supervisor of this type of business is where if you come in and nobody else shows up, you still got to work. If you come in and people leave because they just sick of working, you still got to work. Like you have to keep the ball rolling for the particular organization, which is going to be Burger King. And the reason why I want to cover this story, because it fits in line with what we've been talking about here for the past few years, very, very consistently, is that you have to get some skills and you're going to take whatever deal they have for you. And capitalism does not have a great deal for you if you do not have a skill set. Now, you can try to make it as an entertainer, which a lot of people are trying to do now. You can try to make it as an entertainer. You can try to make it as a professional athlete. But in the real world, because the minority of people are going to be successful in those spaces, the deal that capitalism has for you, if you don't have a certain skill set, is not going to be a great deal. And the reason why this story resonated with me is because I come from a service city. I come from a city where a lot of people work in restaurants, where a lot of people work in service. So I've seen this type of setup before. And we wanted to follow up with it because what happens from people that are trying to push their entertainment career, they'll put this type of story out there because it's very polarizing. It gets a lot of clicks. It gets a lot of reaction. However, there's a real life situation going on behind the story. And that's kind of what we're going to get into because, again, I don't have a channel to where I'm looking for the trending moment just to try to draw some views. I'm actually trying to get you to understand the actual system that you're involved in and then what you need to do to make sure that you can function properly in this system, or you're going to end up like the masses of people that are going to just have to take the deal. And the only reason why people are kind of satiated in this particular society is because they have all the entertainment, they have all the drugs, they have all the sex, they have all the pornography that allows them to get distracted around what their real life is. Now, when I saw this particular video, what I realized is that she made a big mistake. This young lady who talks about the fact that she's an ex-felon, she's taking care of children by herself. She made a big mistake allowing the television news reporter or the anchor or whoever interview her. So here's the reason. When you're working for this type of organization, but even if you're working for a private business, right? When you're working for a really, really large organization like this, everybody got a role to play in the game. Your job is not to get outside of your role. Her role is to go to that Burger King and run that Burger King. That's it. She does not have another role. She can go outside of that and she got to deal with what comes with it. When you're working for somebody else and somebody shows up at your job and they want to talk to you about what's going on your job, you're not in a position to interview with them. They want things to flow from the right department. So what Burger King will want to do is say, hey, you know what? This story has come out about Burger King. What we want to do is issue out a press release and have our HR plus maybe our media team, maybe even our attorneys, figure out how we want to compose a message around this so we can put the best light on Burger King because it doesn't look good for Burger King to have somebody in there working like that and they don't have any help, because it's not a good PR move for Burger King. They're trying to put their best foot forward from a PR standpoint. Therefore, when I saw her jump out there by herself and interview, I said, she doesn't know she shouldn't be doing that. And as a manager, they have not trained her that if the media shows up at the store to talk about anything, you refer them to your GM, you don't talk. But when they showed up and wanted to talk to her, what she should have done was say, hey, here's the card for my GM. I need to get back to business. If you don't want to do business with us, I'm going to, politely ask you to leave our premises and, get off our grounds, because this is a place of business, right? She shouldn't be talking to them. And I realized she didn't know that. Now, here's what I knew would happen next, because I know how these people play games, because I worked in corporate, especially when you're in these type of positions. Because what Burger King's looking for is a relatively unskilled person that'll just work really hard for them and take whatever they got to dish out. That's what Burger King's looking for. That's their ideal candidate for this job. Not saying that being a Burger King manager is negative, but the way they're running this store, because it's so understaffed, they're looking for somebody to where they'll work really, really, really hard and they'll take whatever they give them. And so what they do is they find somebody who is economically vulnerable. They're not in the best economic position, so they feel like, I have to take this just to keep some money coming into my household. Here's what I knew they would do to her. I said, this going to come back to her, and they're going to figure out a way to get rid of her and to get her off this job. But what they're going to do is they're going to allow her enough rope to do it. They don't want to make it seem like they just outright fired her. I don't know if South Carolina is a right to work state. You can go look that up on your own. They don't want to make it seem like they just outright fired her. They're going to want to make it seem like you're the reason why you got fired. So they really don't want her to work there anymore, but they're not going to come out and say it. They're going to allow her to do certain things so that they can justify why they got to get rid of her. So it don't look like we fired you around the fact that you interviewed around your working conditions and you didn't talk to us first. And I knew that was going to happen. I didn't want that to happen for her, but I know how these type of situations work, because why? I've seen it happen before. So let's go into a follow-up story around what happened to this young woman.
Evergreen fired me because I've been late because of my kids, bro. My kids come first. And now when y'all gonna watch my kids? Y'all don't pay for no babysitter, no nothing.
Nykia Hamilton, crying tears of frustration, posting this video on TikTok earlier this month after being fired from Burger King on Broad River Road in Columbia. Hamilton went viral on social media in June for running the restaurant solo, working 12 hours plus, doing every job to provide for her 3 children. She says the company wrongfully fired her after she was on approved time off and was scheduled to work the day she was coming back.
So I told them, I'm not gonna make it in time. I don't see how y'all schedule me at 12 knowing I'm leaving Charlotte at 11. And it take an hour and 30 minutes to get to work. Still got to drop kids. I still got to do everything.
Hamilton says they responded and told her she was terminated, so she didn't report to work the next day. But Burger King reached out and told her to report back to work the following day and to be on time. She says the franchise owner, Matt O'Doherty, went to look at her time logs for the past 2 weeks and told her she was late too often. Hamilton says O'Doherty lacked consideration and gave her a final write-up.
I was like, how I get a final written warning when I never got in trouble with the company?
Hamilton says she always communicated with her GM when she was going to be late, and says she always was okay with it because she's a single mom and a hard worker. Hamilton says Burger King and O'Doherty used absence issues as a way to get rid of her.
He was like, yeah, you caused the controversy, you caused too much problems for the job, you knew not to work by yourself. They literally, 2 weeks after everything went down, they literally made a whole contract after everything went down about being in the store by herself.
She says since she's gone viral, Burger King has been threatening to fire her for speaking to the media about her solo shifts, but says they never provided help or extra crew members for her. Watch Fox News reached out to Burger King about the termination. In a statement, a Burger King spokesperson saying, quote, terminations are the decision of the franchisees who own and operate the BK restaurant. In this situation, the franchise confirmed the individual involved is no longer employed due to repeated attendance issues. Burger King says no one should work alone, and they're disappointed their policy wasn't followed. Hamilton says she's planning to sue the company.
I feel like that's emotional distress on that y'all neglected me at the job for 2 days, and you saying that Burger King responded and said I put the job in danger. I was a liability, but how, if y'all knew I was in the store by myself for 2 days and I notified my higher ups, and the man that was over the district manager, He told them, well, that's sad to hear that. And he still let me run the store.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and I just really sympathize with this young lady because she doesn't really get the whole story, and often we don't get it because we haven't been taught properly. Okay, so first thing, there is not a socioeconomic system that exists in the world that cares about your children. So all of the colloquialism of my kids come first, yeah, they can come first, and you also cannot work there. This idea to where the socioeconomic system that you operate under is going to be a respecter of the needs of your children is an illusion. It doesn't matter which one you pick because it wasn't designed for that. Right? So when they design any of these socioeconomic systems, it doesn't matter which one you pick. You can pick whichever one you want to pick that have already been created, that we have these cults built around. They were not built to say, well, the kids come first. That's not how this works. That only works when the people are trying to run for political office and then they start running stuff about children. Look at the world we live in today. Go anywhere in the world. Is it a respecter of the condition of children? So you have to figure out as an individual, how do you carve out a space for the safety and the longevity and the development of your children? But these systems are not respecters of children. They don't care about them. They never will. They weren't built that way. 2, she's looking for fairness in this thing. And again, she's not operating in a system that's based around things being fair. She's operating in a system that is designed to generate profit from a quick serve business model. That's it. That's the system. So I knew that, okay, yeah, her GM was allowing her to, maybe have some flexibility on her schedule because of her family situation. However, that's the same thing that they can use to get her off that job. That's how this stuff works. And it doesn't matter what she had done or not done. If your job wants to fire you, they'll find a reason to fire you, especially if you work in a right to work state. She don't have a contract to work with Burger King. If you work in a right to work state, they can come in here and say, hey, we don't like the way your shoes look and fire you. And if you don't like it, you can go to the EEOC or whatever. You try to do whatever you need to do, but you don't have a job though. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? So unless you can prove a certain level of discrimination as the reason why they fired you, you can't do anything about the fact that you got fired. And so her attitude is, well, they let me do this and I spoke to this person and they were aware of it. None of that is going to really help her because she's looking for fairness in something that is not fair. So what often happens to our most unskilled people in our society is they have to take the worst working conditions. They have to suffer through the worst working conditions. Once there's any issue between them and the job, because there's such a large pool of that labor, they're just disposable, right? They're just disposable. She became a bigger headache for Burger King than what they felt like her value was. So they're going to cut her. They're going to move on to the next situation. But they're going to make it seem like she did it, though. That's how these games play. This is why I've been telling, and I'm going to continue to talk about, you got to get some skills. You have to figure out a way to improve your skill level. You have to figure out a way to do the things that can improve your economic mobility in this society, or you're going to have to take what somebody gives you. And you notice we're not hearing any of the stories about how her as a Black woman, she makes so much money that she has to settle to be in relationships with people. We notice we're not getting that story now because that's not the real story. So this is real life, and real life is not the internet. But it's the internet that got her in trouble. Because if nobody would have posted her on the internet, we would have never seen what was going on. The internet got her in trouble. But this is real life, it's not the internet. And that's what I want people to understand. While everybody's playing games on the internet and everybody's trying to be the entertainer on the internet, it's real life going on out here. But people so much hate their real life, they run to the internet to live that fake life. Let's keep going. So now we're going to roll into the second part of Get Some Skills to Take the Deal 2025. And I'm going to talk about something I witnessed and I kind of experienced. And this is going to be anecdotal, but it speaks to what I'm talking about. So a few weeks ago, I went to rent a car. And I went to this rental car agency in my city. And I showed up and there was a young woman working there. And she was working all by herself. And she was very, very stressed out because it was very busy. Things weren't going the way she wanted it to go. She didn't have some of the cars she needed. And you could tell that she was getting overwhelmed by the situation. really young woman. She had to be under 25 years old. And she was just trying to manage this rental car agency. And she was a manager. You know, they have that manager trainee program. She was a manager, and she's trying to manage this situation all by herself with all these people coming in waiting for their car. And she was extremely stressed out. And she was starting to get overwhelmed by the situation. So I went and rented my car, came back, and we spoke. And she was like, hey, you know, I didn't want you to think I took the situation personal, yada, 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 because I think she was kind of embarrassed by the fact that she got overwhelmed by the situation. And I straight up asked her, I say, well, what did you go to school for? She says, I have a college degree in health sciences. Health sciences is a very general degree. It's very general. It's not very specific. And she told me, well, my options were either go into pharmaceutical sales or like go into like this type of management training program. And I asked her, I said, do you think this is how this company runs their business? Or do you think what happened to you is just abnormal? Because what I wanted to help her understand is that if this is how they run their business, this is just how they run their business. And so this is something that you may have to deal with as a manager, and you trying to move up in this corporation where they just run their business. They're short-staffed and they often don't have cars on location. And then you just have to deal with the customer relation impact of that. However, I wish that she would have been informed that going to school for a health science degree is not really a skill. It's a very general degree, and medical is a very specific field. So unless she was going into HR management, the medical field is very specific. It's not general. I don't think it benefits her to get a general degree in the medical field because the medical field is very specific. I worked in the medical field for 10 years. You have a very specific job. When you show up, you know exactly what you're going to do. Therefore, she would maybe want to try to figure out, can I combine this health sciences degree with a specific skill, technical skill, maybe CT, radiology, whatever, you know, in this space, which can then position me for management later on in my career. Therefore, she won't be in a situation to where she's working a job, and because of her lack of skills in this economy, her employer doesn't really respect what she brings to the table. And the reason why I can understand what she's been through, because I've been there. You're not talking to a person to where I came out of high school and then I jumped on the internet. Like, that's not what I did. I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked all different type of jobs. Right? I didn't run to the internet for my big payday. And so what I think a lot of people are not realizing is that a lot of these situations that I talk about, I've been in these situations, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I know everybody on the internet makes six figures or greater because, again, this is the false word of the internet. But I've been in these type of situations because, again, I come from a service city. And I know how corporations and jobs and managers and district managers will deal with their workers because they feel like, well, this is the best you can do, because if you could do something better, you would be doing something better. So there's something about you that makes you keep showing up at this job, even though we're not really paying you a lot, or we're not really giving you a lot of opportunity to move up. And what we're going to do is just exhaust you at this level, because essentially it's a war of attrition to see who can survive this particular experience. So that's why I can speak to it, because why? I've seen it. I've been through it. I know how it goes. And so this is why I'm really an advocate of making sure that people get skilled. I'm all for people going to college, but go to college with a plan of getting an education that is going to be skill-based. It's not just all about tech. Medical field is so broad. You can go to a community college and do like 2.5, maybe 3 years of school and be a CT tech, and in a few years be making almost $100,000 a year. Right? And I know people are going to say that's STEM, but it's not necessarily about going and being a programmer or a coder, even though I'm not against it. But there's so many things you can do in our society in America that is going to be skill-based because of the opportunity that exists here. You don't have to go to college and get a general degree unless you're going to use that to add on to something else. But I would not recommend anybody goes to college, gets a very general degree, and it goes out into the workforce. I wouldn't recommend that. So this is what I want people to understand. Get some skills to take the deal. Put yourself in the best position to be successful. and realize that the real world is dealing with you. You can run to the internet as much as you want. But this is the reason why we have not changed the message over the past 5 years. We've given you the same message. Other people have left because they didn't like the message. Other people have left because they wanted me to talk about something different. We talked about the same thing the past 5 years. I told you I'm going to give you meat and potatoes. And that's what you got. And some people have taken a message and said, you know what? I need to start taking this seriously because I see what's going on out here. I see how this thing actually works. And I understand what's being communicated to me. And other people have decided to go do something else because they didn't get what they wanted. And I'm fine with that. But I don't want you to end up in a position like these two people I talked about. Because the first woman we talked about income insecurity. She experiences that. We talk about being surplus labor. She's experiencing that. And she's also trying to raise a family. So then now we got to ask ourselves, how does what she's going through impact her children? This is real life again. This is not the internet. She don't make money because Joy Taylor's a millionaire. That don't help her out. She don't make money because Beyonce is a billionaire. That don't help her out. None of that helps her. She don't make money because you got a black woman on the Supreme Court. That don't help her. That's not going to help her get her job back. None of those three individuals going to help her get her job. And they don't have a job for her. She has to go live her life now. The young woman I talked to, they got a health sciences degree, and she's in a management trainee program at a corporation that really don't care about their workers like that. None of those three individuals are going to come help her out. She got to go live her real life. She's a young woman trying to figure out her real life. That's why I like to deal with real life. So get some skills to take the deal 2025, 2026 until infinity. Game not going to change. These systems are not respecters of things that you think they are. It don't matter what system you're talking about. David W. Williams, also known as a retail trader, talk to you later.